So this video is not all inclusive, and I'm going to leave some of the smaller things of the service out just because the simple fact is I don't want to go into so much detail that this is boring. I'm also going to cover a few things that I think are missed during service that are really important. The first thing is antifreeze. These side-by-sides are water cooled and they have to have the antifreeze. I don't know how many times that I've looked at people's side-by-sides and found the reservoir to be below low. The brake mass cylinder is another one that is missed quite often. Guy says, hey, my brakes feel spongy. I don't have good brakes. And you look at the mass cylinder and it's low. It means two things. It's low, it needs more fluid, but also that means you have a leak. Brake fluid just doesn't disappear. Even though this is not technically in the service manual, I do recommend disconnecting the battery cable always disconnect your negative battery cable first. That way if you touch anything else, the circuit's broken once you do that. But go ahead and disconnect each one of these, clean them, and then spray them with a terminal protector to keep it from corroding. Water gets splashed up on this stuff. Mud, dirt, you're carrying it to the car wash. It's just an extra way of protecting the battery. Just go ahead and clean those terminals, make sure there's no corrosion on any of the fittings, and then put it back down, and then we'll be ready to spray the terminal protection on it. I do my best to slide these little booties back up over the top, just so if you was to touch it with a wrench or something, it does have some protection. This is also a good time to go through and check all your relays and just make sure nothing's loose and nothing's corroded. I am definitely not recommending removing this cable that will turn off the backup alarm. The next thing I want to talk about is grease fittings. Now, grease fittings is a pet peeve of mine. You really need to take the time to learn where all of your grease fittings are at. So many times that I've known people that drive their side-by-sides, cars, trucks, tractors, whatever, until they hear squeaking, and then they'll take the time to go find whatever's making that noise. Well, by that point in time, it's too late. The damage has already been done, or at least some damage has been done. To my knowledge, the tie rod ends and ball joints on all BigHorn 550s are sealed. So I'm going to show you a plug here on the side of the front differential. You'll see me put a finger in front of it. This is the plug that you pull out, and then there's a plug on top. You fill the oil to the point where the oil drains out of this plug. That lets you know it's full. Because I can't get the camera in place and also do the work, I'm going to show it on the rear differential. It's a lot easier to show, but it's exactly the same thing. Now, this is the top plug that I'm removing. You always want to make sure that you clean this off. There's not any dirt. I did carry mine to the car wash, but this is an opportunity to drop stuff into the gear, and you don't want to do that. You'll see here that I leave mine kind of just set to the side so it'll deflect stuff off. You could also put a rag in it, keep any kind of dust or dirt from going into the hole. So on the side, this is the one I showed you that's in the front. This is the side plug. You're going to remove this side plug, and then once we get it removed and out of the way, you'll be able to fill through the top plug, and once the fluid rolls out of the side, that means you have enough fluid in your differential. That's how you tell. It's very important that when you do this, your side-by-side is on level ground. Keep up with that little copper crush washer. So I have a really nice long funnel somewhere that would be perfect for this job, but it's somewhere, and somewhere could be anywhere, and I can't find somewhere. So I ended up committing to doing it this way and just cleaning up the mess afterwards. After I've spilt about $2 worth of oil, you'll kind of notice here in just a second, it's going to start easing out of the plug. And what you want to do is just let it drip out, and then you can let it level off if you want to be exactly right, but I just go ahead and put the plug back in. I missed the plug hole about 50 times, so now would be the perfect time to make a crude sexual comment in the comment section below. Now tighten these plugs back up really snug, but with the understanding that these are aluminum housings and they can be stripped out, so don't go all Hulk on these. Depending on your model, you can get to your oil filter using this like This is a nice set of filter pliers that I picked up somewhere along the road. Or in some cases, I've seen some of them that the only way you're going to get the filter off is to have a filter socket and a ratchet. In my case, I was able to get it off with just using these pliers, and I use these on a lot of different things. Hey, I want to take this time to plagiarize my good friend Joe the Farmer. Check out his link at the end of this video.
Make things easier on yourself, which I've already done. Disconnect this piece right here.
So once you get it loose, go ahead and put a rag up under it. This will help you out a lot later on. You won't spill as much. You're going to spill some. Nothing we can do about that. But you'll be able to get most of it away from the engine, and that's what my game plan is. So another common problem is when you remove the oil filter, the actual oil filter gasket will stick to the engine, and you won't notice it necessarily. And then you put the new oil filter on, and it'll have two gaskets, and you'll have an oil gasket blowout or oil filter blowout, and it'll start leaking. And I've seen many of engines ruined this way. So always make sure the gasket is removed from the engine housing. So now it's time to put the oil filter in. I didn't show it in the video, but what I did do is I pour a little bit of oil in the filter, basically to just moisten it up. And I don't top it off all the way, but I do put a little bit of oil in it. And that way when you put it on, the engine doesn't have to go as long to get oil back through the system. I also put a little bit of oil around the outside of the gasket just to make sure that it goes on tight. This filter goes back on hand tight. Don't use your socket or don't use your pliers to put it back on. Only hand tight, or you will hate yourself the next time when you try to get it off. So I want to break into this video. When I was moving around looking for the oil filter, I found a grease fitting that I didn't know was there, and it's on the front drive shaft coming to the front differential. Now I'll work my camera in here. It takes me just a second. You guys bear with me, and you can see it right there on the drive shaft. That's kind of hidden, and that needs to be greased every time that you grease the rest of the unit. Now let me show you where the oil dipstick is and the first modification that I made to the BigHorn 550. I put a dipstick extension tube on and a new dipstick, which raised the dipstick up about 5 or 6 inches. The factory dipstick is way down in the bottom, and honestly my forearms are too big to get down to remove it. So if you can reach down and grab the dipstick in the original configuration, I'm going to say that you have weenie arms. So this is another shameless attempt to get you to make a comment in the comment section, helping the video to be spread. So as I got my light moved around, you can see here the drain plug. And I ended up trying to put a piece of cardboard up in there, but it actually, I don't think, helped any. And it really didn't make that big of a mess with just draining the plug. It seemed to come out pretty good. So once I got the drain plug out, I realized that the little copper washer had fell off, and it basically landed in the pan up onto there. It didn't make any noise because it was oil coated. It took me a few minutes to find it, but I just poking around with my fingers, and I finally got the plug out and also the washer. While letting the oil drain out of the bottom of the engine, I went ahead and spent the time to move around and find all the other grease fittings on the back. So the back axle is a little different, and it's got some grease fittings in some unique places. So take the time to look it over and find those grease fittings, or they will find you in the future when they fail. Only you can save your bearings. I've got to work on my Smokey the Bear. I wish I could hurry up and find somewhere, because this is where I could use my perfect funnel that I cannot find because it's somewhere and I can't find somewhere. So in the manual, it told me exactly how much oil I needed to put in it, and because of this being a new engine, I want to put exactly the right amount, and I use this little measuring cup. Just go slow, slow, slow when you put it in so you don't spill it all over the place, and then you'll know exactly how much you got in it. This is also another opportunity to make sure that my new dipstick is accurate. So while I'm doing this, I'm going to take the time to tell you there is a plug on top of the engine that you can remove, and that will let oxygen or let the pressure come out of the engine as you pour oil in it. So it makes it a lot simpler. I did not film that, but I should have. So take your time and go slow and get it all in. I went through, started the engine, let it run, let it settle, and my dipstick was spot on. So I'm pretty comfortable with that. Also took it out the next day and did some running right and around, and then rechecked my oil. I feel pretty comfortable with the service, and I hope you guys enjoyed this video.